Hello, I'm Dr. Devin for Dr. Devin's Wellness Wednesday Workshop. We are here to you today to talk about inflammation. So what I want to say to you is, everybody was inflammation. Fighting. There you go. There's your fun for today. So today we're going to talk about inflammation and foods that increase inflammation. Next week we will talk about foods that decrease inflammation. So I've got a handy little scale here. I'm not going to let you peek, but on my right is going to be foods that increase inflammation, and on the green side is going to be foods that decrease inflammation. And we're going to talk about all of them. First of all, what is inflammation? Acute inflammation, or sudden inflammation, or inflammation that happens at a certain period of time, is your body's process of fighting against injuries, toxins, infections, in an attempt to heal itself. When something damages your cells, your body releases chemicals that trigger a response that kind of cascades through your immune system to cause your body to heal, and then the inflammation is supposed to go away. Chronic inflammation is acute inflammation that doesn't stop. Some causes are untreated causes of acute inflammation, infection or injuries that are there in the body that aren't taken care of. Autoimmune disorders, so that's your body actually attacking itself. Your immune system attacks your healthy tissues. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but Hashimoto's thyroiditis is when your body actually attacks your thyroid gland, causing it to decrease the amount of thyroid that it puts out. Long-term exposure to irritants such as industrial chemicals, pollutants, or the foods we eat. I'm going to say foods in quote because everything on this list, pretty much everything on this list, isn't really food. It's garbage, pure garbage. Some symptoms of chronic inflammation are fatigue, fever, mouth sores, rashes, abdominal pain, chest pain, overall aches and pains in the body. Long-term can lead to cancer, heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, obesity, asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease. Pretty bad stuff. But before we get too far, today's episode is brought to you by C2, also known as the axis. C2 is the second bone in your neck. So if we look at a spine, your skull, bottom of your skull's right here. Your pretty little brain sits right here. We talked about the atlas previously, up here. Axis is right here, or C2 as its professional name. Cervical 2, second vertebra in the body. C2, it's called the axis because the atlas, if you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, rotates around this axis point right here. It's a very unusual looking vertebra, but C2 is responsible, the nerve that comes from it controls the eyes, the optic nerves, the auditory nerves, the sinuses, the mastoid bones, which are right behind your ear, where you feel that little bone sticking down, your tongue, and your forehead. So C2 is our sponsor this week. Anyway, back to the show. So foods that cause inflammation. We're going to talk about the food itself. We're going to talk about where you can find the food, which you pretty much know where all the foods are anyway. And then we're going to talk about how it increases inflammation. First one up is sugar. Sugar is terrible for the body. Americans eat way too much sugar. We eat more sugar in a day than most people used to eat in a year. Ridiculous. We need to decrease the amount of sugar significantly. You know where you get sugar from, but some of the common places are soft drinks, candy bars, candy, pastries, coffee drinks, frappuccinos. A frappuccino has more sugar than a milkshake. So when you go to Starbucks and have a frappuccino, you're not, doing the right thing for your body. You're drinking a milkshake for breakfast. In the 1960s, the sugar industry paid the New England Journal of Medicine to publish an article saying that that fats cause heart disease and obesity, when it's really sugar that causes those two things most of all. And even though that report was published in the 60s, they've still been spotting that garbage ever since. Excess sugar increases cytokines, which are pro-inflammatory messengers. So basically, cytokines tell your inflammation to go. So whenever you eat sugar, Your inflammation messengers say, make more inflammation, so it makes more inflammation. It also decreases your white blood cells and your ability to fight infection, making you more susceptible to disease. That is why people usually get sick in the winter months, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, because people are eating more sugar and garbage. It doesn't have anything to do with the cold weather. It has to do with the sugar you're eating at that time of year. The second food on the list is vegetable oil. You can find vegetable oil in mayonnaise, salad dressing, and pretty much every single processed food. Soy, corn, sunflower, safflower, or palm oil, they're pretty much, they're still a little bit better than trans fats, but they're pretty terrible for your body. Any processed food you buy is going to be bad for you. If you buy something that comes in a box or is made beforehand, before you get to it, then it's going to be bad for you. Just remember that. Let's go back to vegetable oil. Vegetable oil has a really high content of omega-6 fatty acids. You might have heard of omega-3s in fish. People take fish oil all the time. Omega-6s are a fat that increases inflammation. Omega-3s are a fat that decreases inflammation. You want to decrease inflammation. Therefore, when you decrease inflammation, you increase health. So omega-6s, the ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s should be 1:1. And in America, because of all the processed food we eat, it's 20 omega-6s for every 1 omega-3. Inflammation overload. Third thing we're going to talk about is fried foods. Fried chicken, French fries, fish sticks, chicken tenders, onion rings, potato chips. Anything fried you eat has high levels of what's called advanced glycation end products, AGEs. When people cut out processed and fried foods, they have high levels of AGEs, the markers of inflammation in their body radically diminish. Fourth thing, refined flour. Pizza, white bread, crackers, pasta, pretzels, flour tortillas, breakfast cereals, bagels. Refined wheat flours they basically take out all of the nutrients from the flour to make it easier to grind up and process. And then they add synthetic nutrients back into it, which does nothing for your body. It's stripped of its slow digesting fiber. When you eat the gluten, or when you eat the bread, the fiber is supposed to make it so that your digestion slows down, so you take a long time to digest it. And when you take a long time to digest it, then your body can break it down and actually use the parts. It moves really quickly through your body. The faster it goes through your body, the more the blood sugar and glucose spikes in your blood. Then insulin comes in to try and decrease it, and then you get a vicious cycle where you get type 2 diabetes. It causes a greater concentration of the inflammatory marker PAI1 in the blood. Diet rich in whole grains, not refined flours, decreases inflammatory marker known as C-reactive protein. So we'll talk about C-reactive protein in a little bit. Fifth thing is dairy. Cut out dairy. Milk, cheese, butter, yogurt. It disrupts the gut microbiome, decreases good gut bacteria, which reduces inflammation. And dairy is a very common allergen, especially in people of European origin. Most mammals, which humans are a mammal, don't have dairy after they're weaned from nursing. So we're the only ones who drink dairy or use dairy products after that. So just cut it out. It's terrible. In 2014, British Medical Journal found that high milk intake resulted in higher bone fractures in women. Oh, but milk, it does the body good. It does not do a body good. The calcium in milk, your body does not absorb it, does not digest it, does not process it, and cannot use it. Best source of calcium is green leafy vegetables like spinach. Artificial sweeteners, that's number 6. No sugar added products, diet soft drinks, low cal, no cal. It alters the microbiome of your gut and increases your glucose intolerance. So you say, hey self, let's not eat sugar. Let's eat artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners, even though it's not sugar, still causes your body to think it's gotten sugar, adds insulin, causes diabetes eventually. So artificial sweeteners, terrible. It increases bad gut bacteria associated with type 2 diabetes. Increases release of cytokines. just like sugar and refined carbs. Artificial sweeteners, really, it kills your gut bacteria and releases those anti-inflammatory compounds. Number 7 to get rid of is artificial additives. These are in breakfast cereals, processed foods containing fruit, candy, ice cream. If something says artificial on the label, it means it's not real, and it means your body cannot digest it. Your body doesn't have any way to process that food and use it into anything usable. Did you know that artificial colorings are actually made from petroleum? Do you know what petroleum is? It's oil. Yeah, you're putting oil in your body anytime you have red dye number 40, yellow dye number 16. Artificial coloring, garbage. Stop using it. It disrupts hormone function. These are scientific research things that they've found. It disrupts hormone function. It causes hyperactivity in children. And in animal studies, it produces tumors in them. Just because you're using artificial colors and additives. Our immune system tries to defend your body against stuff that it doesn't recognize, causing that inflammatory response. And then you eat some Reese's Pieces, and you get an inflammatory response. And then the next day you eat a chocolate bar, and you get an inflammatory response. So all the synthetic colorants, they increase your inflammatory response. Emulsifying agents, which cause fats to not foam up when they're cooked with, and they're used to also cook in foods, they disrupt the bacterial makeup of your gut, leading to inflammation and weight gain. Number 8, stop eating saturated fats. Burgers, pizza, candy, and chips. There are 2 types of adipose tissue. There is white adipose tissue, which stores energy, and there's brown adipose tissue, which burns energy. You want brown adipose tissue because brown adipose tissue is the adipose is also known as fat. The brown adipose tissue makes it so that your body can actually burn what you are storing in your body. Saturated fats trigger the white to increase and to grow bigger. When they grow bigger, they release more inflammatory agents and cause systemic inflammation. Number 9, conventional grain-fed meats, beef, chicken, pork. Cattle, chicken, pigs did not evolve to eat a grain-fed diet, so you know what they do? They put antibiotics and hormones into the feed so that those animals can eat that stuff that they can't digest so that they feel okay. 80% of all antibiotic sales in the U.S. goes to farmers for livestock. And it also produces the super germs that we're seeing everywhere, like MRSA and even worse stuff that's coming out down the pipeline. It keeps the animals from getting diseases in the cramped feedlots or getting sick from their unnatural diet. Also helps them gain them and us gain weight faster. So we're eating meats higher in inflammatory saturated fats because of that. They have greater levels of omega-6s because of that, because they're eating corn and soy. Not designed to eat corn and soy. If you have 100% grass-fed organic beef, it has as much omega-3s as if you had fish. So if you don't like fish, organic grass-fed beef. When we grill meat, also at high temperatures, it can create some inflammatory carcinogens. Number 10 food to avoid is processed meats, bacon, hot dogs, lunch meat, sausage, and jerky. Meats high in saturated fat contain high levels of AGEs, which is advanced glycation end products. They're inflammatory compounds like we talked about before. Also, the drying, smoking, pasteurizing, and cooking at high temperatures increases that. They're also injected with preservatives, colorings, artificial flavorings to make it taste like it's delicious when it's disgusting. Your body thinks it's foreign and keeps attacking it. So a lot of the pain you feel is from the food you add to your body. And I'm going through this really quick, and I can post some more information on that below because we're almost done, but we've still got 6 more to go. The number 11 food we're going to talk about is gluten from store-bought bread, made from refined flour. Ancient wheat, the wheat humans ate for most of our history, had 14 chromosomes. If you know anything about chromosomes, daddy cell, mommy cell get together, and then they produce the baby cell, whatever. And In plants, with ancient wheat, it was 7 daddy, 7 mommy, 14 chromosomes. Modern wheat, because we've modified it, we've crossbred it, and we're starting to genetically modify it. Modern wheat has 42 chromosomes. Our body cannot recognize 42 chromosome wheat. We can recognize 14 chromosome wheat. We cannot recognize 42 chromosome wheat. It sees it as harmful, so it attacks it. And it attacks you. Highly processed bread, the yeast that they put in bread is supposed to help ferment it so that your body can actually digest it. That fermentation process, because it's, you shoot it into the machine, and it comes out in about an hour. That whole process of making the bread that they do in factories, it doesn't help with the digestion. The fermentation process doesn't happen. It's not pre-digested for us to be able to actually eat it. And it ruins the lining of your intestines. This is one of the reasons that so many people are gluten sensitive nowadays. And then another thing they do when they harvest wheat nowadays is they spray Roundup all over it and pesticides. And guess what? They spray that all over it, and then they grind it up, and then they put it into flour, and then they strip out all the nutrients, and then you eat it. Roundup is what is causing many people to have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Roundup is some of the worst stuff you can have, and people just spray it everywhere in their yards. So number 12, worst thing you can do, let's see, 12, is a second round of alcohol. You get alcohol from sources such as beer, wine, and liquor. 1 5-ounce glass of wine has the flavonoids your heart needs to help decrease inflammation. A second 5-ounce glass of wine starts to damage you. 1 can of beer, or don't ever use cans, don't use aluminum. 1 bottle of beer has good probiotics in it. Probiotics are the good bacteria in your gut we were talking about. A second bottle of beer will start to decrease those good probiotics that your body uses. It decreases C-reactive protein, and then too much or if you do it in moderation, too much alcohol increases C-reactive protein, which you remember if I told you earlier, C-reactive protein increases inflammation. So breaking down the alcohol in your body causes toxic byproducts that cause your liver cells to be damaged. It promotes inflammation, and it weakens your immune system. Number 13, trans fats. Most people are like, oh, I don't get trans fats anymore. That was outlawed. So to advertise that you have no trans fats per serving, instead of getting rid of trans fats with a lot of processed food companies, so I'm talking about like the breakfast bars, cereals, donuts, cookies, muffins, restaurant meals, 0 grams of trans fat per serving means nothing. You know what they did? If a serving size was a whole bar, breakfast bar before, they said now a serving size is half a breakfast bar. And the FDA said as long as it's less than 0.49 grams per serving, so if the whole bar had 1 gram and half a bar has less than half a gram, then they can say it's 0 grams. If the label says hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated anywhere on the label, it has trans fats. It's garbage. Trans fats make your cell wall hard and thick. If it's hard and thick, it can't get junk out, and it can't put good nutrients in. Your cell wall should be pliable. It should be soft. It should allow nutrients in. It should allow waste to go out. Your body, again, trans fats are artificial. They're man-made. Your body doesn't recognize it as food, so it attacks it, and it attacks you. When your body senses an unknown foreign object, it stimulates that inflammatory response. One of the studies they did, women who ate foods high in trans fat had higher levels of systemic inflammation, like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. We talked a little bit about C-reactive protein. All right, I think we're on number 14 now. Fast food. You get fast food from places such as McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, and Chick-fil-A. Yes, I'm sorry, Southerners. Chick-fil-A is not really good for you. One of the really bad things about fast food is the stuff it's packaged in. If you've ever heard of the word phthalates, it starts with a P, H, and then it ends with phthalates. So the pH is kind of silent. But anyway, phthalates are in the packaging of the foods that we consume. Phthalates are used in plastic food and beverage packaging. They disrupt your endocrine system. They're chemical toxins. People who have fast food eat more, have higher quantities of phthalates than infrequent fast food eaters. Phthalates increase C-reactive protein, the messenger to inflammation. Higher exposure to phthalates is found with metabolic syndrome, a disease commonly associated with higher levels of inflammation. And then the last one we're going to go to is genetically modified organisms. Sometimes they're called genetically engineered food. Assume that any food isn't labeled organic or certified GMO-free has them. GMO stands for a genetically modified organism. Basically, they take the DNA of the real food, they splice it, and then they add some other DNA to it. Usually it's Roundup, so that that food doesn't get, you don't get insecticides that you have to spray on it because it's already built into the plant. Then you eat it, and you're eating Roundup inside of a plant. Inflammation levels 2.6 times higher in genetically engineered fed pigs. So these are all studies on pigs because, you know, the FDA doesn't care if these are bad for people. 2.6 times higher levels of inflammation in genetically engineered fed pigs than those fed a non-genetically engineered diet. Male pigs were worse than the female pigs. Sows, or female pigs, 2.2 times more likely to have severe stomach inflammation on a genetically engineered diet. Male pigs, 4 times more likely to get severe stomach inflammation. So what can we do? If you remember, here's my chart. And you probably can't read it because it looks backwards on my screen. But here's all the foods that increase inflammation. So what you want to do is decrease all of the foods we talked about today. Decrease them. I mean, if you can't cut them out immediately, do your best to start cutting them out one by one. Start at, you know, just pick one this week. Either cut it out or decrease it. Pick one next week, cut it out or decrease it. Eventually, you'll be eating actual food. So you need to start decreasing your intake of all this garbage that modern Americans call food. Because the stuff we eat is not food. You will feel better and you will heal better. But remember, you've been eating this garbage your entire life, so you're not going to feel better right away. It takes a long time to rebuild cells that have been damaged your entire life because of the junk you eat. Eating garbage that masquerades as food is no longer an option for you. So, I want you to like, comment, share, and come back next Wednesday where we will talk about foods that decrease inflammation and will help you start feeling better. Have a great week. Bye.